Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock, and I'm going to welcome you all here to the Plan Commission meeting. And with that, I open the meeting of Middleton Plan Commission Tuesday, September 26, 2017. So the first item is the roll call.
Okay. Paulson?
Here.
Hubbard?
Here.
Sellers? Here. Olson?
Here.
Warren?
Here.
Barr?
Here.
7 present.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
Move approval.
Now there's some,
Yeah, there's going to be an amendment that we recommend, amending the minutes for referring the design guidelines to the Landmarks Commission. They were left off the list. I actually don't have the minutes in front of me, so I don't know which item that was. But,
yeah, I do, so.
Use the microphone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, there's a need to amend the minutes as drafted to refer the design guidelines to the Landmarks Commission. That was meant to be part of the referral.
Item number 10. Item 10.
Yes, yeah, I don't have it written down.
Yes, it is done, yes. Okay, need a second.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. All of those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the minutes pass. And the second item on the agenda is the certified survey map, Kenneth Market, Louis Karpinski, 1717 and 1730 Middleton Streets and South Avenue. So Mark, Aline was going to take it, so you're going to do it now?
Yep. The owners are present here, I believe, and they are available if you have any questions. They are requesting to adjust or modify the lot lines for 2 vacant lots as indicated in your packet. The adjustment would take part on former Lot 4 from the 1995 Certified Survey Map and add it to the existing lot and house at 7312 South Avenue. The remaining 2 lots would remain large enough to meet the R2 standards, and there's an access easement that would also remain as previously approved. So the matter before you is to approve the lot line adjustment.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Should
Okay,
should
discussion.
one of these lots still be Lot 4? If you look at the last copy that we have 2 Lot 2s. Yeah, no, this is what they wanted to do.
Oh, the one they included, yeah.
Well, it's a new certified survey map, or it would be a new certified survey map. And so by creating a 2-lot CSM, they would then have 1 and 2. Be numbered 1 and 2. That's how I understand our CSM process. So you wouldn't be keeping the 4 refers to the previous land division.
So there would be 2 CSMs, one with 1, 2, and 3, and one with 1, 2.
Yes.
And also, just one minor addition is the approval should be contingent on staff approval of the final CSM.
Sorry, I forgot to say that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Or I have gone to to this site. I walked that area twice, so I didn't even know that there was a pathway from that South Avenue going there, and yeah, so I got to know the place at least where that is. So, any other questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, I call the question. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. So the next one is the specific implementation plan modification for signage for Cyrus Aircraft Capital Flight Hangar lot number 41. So this has been to the Plan Commission before, and there are, Mark, you want to
Sure.
take it?
This item was referred by the Planning Commission to the Airport Commission at the request of Alder Howard Teal. The Airport Commission recommending approval of the 2 signs. Each would be 20 square feet, internally illuminated, one on the south facade facing Airport Road and one on the west facade closer to the runway. So the recommendation from staff and the Airport Commission is approval as a minor SIP modification.
So moved.
Second.
Any, yes, Dennis?
This is sort of a major, because I believe it's the first lit sign. So I think that sets a new precedent. Is that something that we want to get into?
Yeah, I thought at the airport you had to have just the runway marked with all the lights and not a lot of other lights going on at night.
I believe there's an existing ground sign, which, if memory serves, is internally illuminated. Pretty sure of that, but I could be wrong.
Where would that be?
That's at the entrance to the airport. I'm trying to remember if that's it. I think that is illuminated.
Some things we have to depend on our airport commission to look into and let us know if that's an issue or not.
Well, I think that's why it was referred to them to
Right,
begin with.
and they brought it back without any conditions, so I'm assuming that they were okay with
They
the
were
lit
aware it was
signs.
illuminated.
They were aware, and they, yeah.
Apparently, since we're the official sign committee, however, maybe we should have a we should be entitled to an opinion as well.
Well, that's very possible, Dennis, but the point is, I think what you were pointing out is that you were concerned about lit signs at an airport because of the runway lights and all that other stuff.
No, just
That
that
was
it's
my
the first one,
Okay.
and then we could have a whole lot of
Whatever.
these, and it's bigger than any other sign out there. So, other than this one on Capitol Flight.
Okay.
No, it wasn't
Stand
about,
corrected.
it wasn't
Fine.
about the airplanes. It was simply about, do we want more signs that are lit? And now, why doesn't everybody deserve a lit sign then? For the years we held it to this,
How do you know it's lit, Dennis?
because it says,
Where does it
it
say?
says that it
Internally
is
illuminated.
illuminated, well,
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't,
illuminated, yes.
agenda.
Mark, what does our ordinance say?
Well, there's
Because
building
is this the
covenants.
first illuminated sign?
It's possible that it is. I hadn't even focused on that aspect of it. Our ordinance at the airport specifically, there's actually building covenants that govern signage at the airport. And those were adopted in 2004, and they state, they talk about the single sign up to 1.5 square feet in area. But that was intended for the hangars out there that are non-corporate hangars, essentially. This business has frontage along Airport Road. They are becoming a significant business at the airport in terms of attracting clients, customers, and aircraft sales and training, and so they have a need for more signage than the average hangar owner out there.
Okay, so what about the recommendation of the airport commission?
Was recommending approval, and that's our staff recommendation as well. I appreciate Dennis bringing this up, though, in terms of the illuminated portion of it. Being quite familiar with the airport, as staff to the Airport Commission, I can tell you that the sign will not interfere with runway operations or anything like that. It's far removed from the runway. There's separate lights for the runway. This sign will be very. It won't be noticeable or a distraction to pilots or even people taxiing on the runway. It's quite small in the scheme of things. If you look at the scale of the building, it's quite small.
So if this is the first lighted sign in Middleton, do you want to look into it? I mean, there's no problem that we could.
I was aware it was illuminated. I just hadn't thought of it in the context of this may be the first illuminated sign. I do think the ground sign out there is illuminated. I'm sure it is.
When you say first illuminated sign, you mean at the airport or in the city?
Airport.
At the airport.
The airport. Because there's a lot of
Internally illuminated.
there's a lot of illuminated
We have
signs
lots
in
of
the city.
illuminated signs in the city.
Okay, just not at the airport.
No,
This is another one of those cases where we need to know where the building is. Is it, which,
The building is
the
right,
top elevation is facing the street?
Yes, and I do recall that I'm sorry I didn't include a site plan in the packet. That would have been a good thing to include. My apologies.
Okay, so if it's facing the street, that seems to,
It faces Kiva.
okay.
So if you can
Kiva,
imagine,
okay.
where there's 4 hangars to the east of the main terminal
Yeah.
building. There's a cluster of 4 hangars right across the street from Kiva.
do we want the staff to look into it before we are ready to vote? Okay, so I need a motion then.
Move to approve?
There was a motion
We have
from,
a
Yeah.
motion, so we have
seconded by
to
Yeah, we already have.
Oh,
withdraw
okay.
the original motion.
Oh, okay,
Leaf is quick on the draw on the motion.
okay, oh, okay.
It was
Okay.
moved by Hubbard, seconded by Zellers to approve the signage request as a minor SIP modification.
Do we want to add anything to this, or?
So do you want to withdraw the motion or just leave it?
Any more discussion? If there are no more question or discussion, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the motion passes. So the next one on the agenda is specific implementation plan, SIP modification for conservancy view subdivision for increased building height on 67557 Chickahawk Trail. So we did something very similar at the last meeting.
Yeah.
At the second house, very close to it. You want to,
Mayor, as you mentioned, we had this, 2 weeks ago, we had a similar request. This, of course, has different set of plans. It has its own, a different company building it. Blue Line Designs. Is anybody here? There's somebody here. Don is here tonight to answer any questions you may have. I'm sorry? Dan, sorry, Dan.
The one we had last time, was it also on Chickahawk Trail?
Yes.
Yeah.
yep, yep.
And that's where you've got the really steep grade up to the
Right.
arc, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I looked at them, they all look that way as you described.
So I didn't, as you can see, there's a note here recommending you discuss the front elevations amongst yourselves, and since the applicant is here, you could direct any questions to him. What's a little different about this house compared to some of the others is the others had a more staggered setback, if you will, for the upper stories. This still achieves that, just not to the extent of the other ones. We don't have a rule specific to that about how much the upper levels need to be set back in a case like this. It was just a design solution that other builders had done, and I think Dan was doing that in this case as well, to have it stepped back a little bit. So I don't have any specific guidance for you in terms of whether this is adequate or not. I defer to your input, your judgment. But I don't have any objection to it.
One of the questions I'd have, Mark, I really can't visualize what it's going to look like. Kind of go back and forth on this, and that is, I know we've approved others in the past, and I'm thinking, could this be somewhat consistent with the others, but not the same, because you don't want to
Right.
throw up same things going on there, but on the other hand, you don't want it to be completely out of character with what has already been approved.
If
I'm
this
not
were-
making it any easier, but I'm just,
If this were a flush, if all three levels, the basement, first and second story, if they were all flush at the front, then I would say it's a significant departure from the others we've approved. But it's some degree of setback.
It's setback a little bit.
Albeit with the balconies and front porch. But, and then the rear elevation too has a setback component to it, similar to how other homes have been. So, I would say it's more similar to the other homes than if it were just a flush facade. I guess I could have gone back and looked and measured what the other setbacks were, but
I don't know if that'd make a big difference.
Yeah.
It's more the character of it,
Right.
what it looks like, tastefulness, more of those softer, touchy-feely things. If it's consistent, not totally consistent, but if it looks like it fits, and that's in the eye of the beholder to some extent. I guess, I would make a motion for approval, as long as it is appropriate for the site.
Okay, we need second
Second?
discussion.
Can you just clarify something, Mark? We measure the height of a building from the grade at the front of the parcel or the grade at the front of the building?
At the base of the structure.
So the grade at the base, and because it's steeply sloped, it means that the top gable exceeds the height. But the slope behind it, I mean, living in Middleton Hills, there's nothing behind it but the park, so it's not, so it's really the concern is of the neighbors nearby, for whom many of these parcels have not yet been developed. Because the issue then is going to be everyone who comes in after this will want the same thing, which,
I would say more than a half are developed. Dan, you could probably answer that question.
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll be too, because we have another one, just 2 lots down.
so we're just going to have to keep approving minor modifications, which again is fine. But
The analogy I would make is to, in Middleton Hills, Glacier Ridge Road.
Okay.
You know, the homes on top of the hill.
It's very steep.
At the
Facing.
exact same type of.
The stairs at the front are chasing the hill back.
Yeah.
And in my view, some of those homes have more of a, you know, are more imposing than others. It's kind of in the eye of the beholder. But because the ground floor is, the garage is several feet above the road, they already start out looking a lot higher. And in the case of Middleton Hills, the very last house that was approved actually had, in my view, a 4th story to it, but that's another debate. It had a little roof element. But if you can picture that street, that's what we're facing in this subdivision as well.
How many lots are left after this one?
I would say it's certainly, it's close to half a dozen at most, wouldn't you say, Dan?
Yeah, well, all 3 of these lots are, I'd say there's 3 lots.
So Dan, do you want to come here? Would you mind coming to the microphone here and
Just for the record, if you're going to answer the question.
identify yourself and your address, please?
There's 1 lot being built right now. Then ours will be here, and then I think there's 2 or 3 lots to the west. I have 1 more of those.
And on the north side, I can't remember if there's a vacant lot left there still on the North Chickahawk, but we're talking a handful.
I don't think there's anything on the other side. I think they're all.
So this would not affect the neighborhood?
No.
No,
Okay,
it doesn't.
okay.
The main concern with the height, I'm sorry, Kurt.
Well, the alternative would be we'd have to impose a flat roof, which doesn't impose,
Doesn't fit at all.
that doesn't fit the character, right? So it's,
The main
solution's worse than the disease.
The main reason why the height, why the Plan Commission in 2013 added this language for height was because of concern of affecting the views from the lots on Ramsey Road, Middleton Hills. That was the main reason why height was an issue. A lot of these lots here specifically are abutting the park, and the height really is, there's a drop-off. The farther west you go on the site, the more it drops off. So it's, the height is not, the overall height is not an issue, in my view.
Okay, any other questions? David?
Has this been to engineering yet?
I don't know what you mean. You mean to building
The
inspection?
building inspection?
No, this would be, this comes to us first, and then they'll apply for their zoning permit, and then that goes to the building.
Because I don't know what the code says, but I'm suspicious of the 17 stairs in a single flight. Without having a landing in the middle of it somewhere.
I thought the max was 13.
I thought it was.
Yeah, there's a building code.
Is it external,
Statewide building
therefore it
code.
doesn't count? I don't know.
No, you gotta have a landing, right?
I would think it would be even more.
State building code is what, 12 or 13, and then you need a landing?
Yep.
Well,
So-
it might not apply to an external stair because you've got out of the fire.
I see.
I'm just,
Our approval is always, if they can't get a building permit, then
I know,
it's irrelevant anyway.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, I'm going to call the question. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Thank you, Dan. Okay, the next one is a final plat, the community of Bishop Bay, West Portlands, the Prairie and the Farm Neighborhoods, Phase 5. Mark?
And I believe there's somebody here from Bishop's Bay. Yep. Oh, Terrence is here, obviously.
Boss himself.
There's somebody else, too. I can't remember. You were up here earlier before the meeting, introducing yourself. So the preliminary plat was approved earlier this year with conditions. The town of Westport has approved the final plat, and that is included in your packet, but was not printed because it is so long, 31 pages. It's included in the electronic packet. It was not printed in hard copy. The final plat approval should be contingent on all of the preliminary plat conditions as outlined by the town and the city being met. And Eileen's recommendation was to recommend final plat approval to the council with the town and city conditions and restrictions approved for the preliminary plat.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion now?
This,
No, this approval is with all the conditions from the Westport as well as Middleton Plan Commission.
I just have a question with this letter from Veerbecker we have in the packet on this. There's no significant modifications have been made to the preliminary plat other than those listed here, and that's the dedication on M and public right-of-way. Those have been reflected in the town and city letters?
I would presume so. I have not, I didn't know that, I did not review this for the meeting, so based on Eileen's notes, it sounds like...
We'll ask Terrence. This letter from Veerbecker that says no significant modifications have been made to the preliminary plat other than those regarding dedication along M and the modification of the public right-of-way on public roads from 48 to 49.5. That's in your engineer's letter to Eileen, September 7th. Those are reflected in the staff comments, right? And the city and town conditions?
Taylor,
Oh, your easel is falling apart.
Taylor, do you have one comment on that? Since you've been handling that.
So those changes accommodate the
Could you
requests
please
that were made.
identify yourself? And
Oh, sorry, Taylor Brengel, T-Wall Enterprises. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, so those changes were to address comments made via the Westport Planning Commission and Common Council, or and Board, so.
So they are incorporated in here?
Yep.
So this is really just a pro forma approval because it's a final plat recording.
Yep.
Yep.
Along with, they have to meet all various conditions.
All the conditions,
Yes.
which are attached to the preliminary plat anyway.
Yes.
So.
Exactly.
Any more questions? David, Dennis, Cindy? Okay, so we are ready to vote? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. So we are on to the concept review, Red Tail Acres, Bill Ranguet, said somewhere else, 4821 County Highway Q.
You recall
Can you
this...
bring that closer?
You bet. Where would you like it? Well,
I don't know if they can see it.
Yep, that's
At least under the light.
We have a copy.
Oh, you have the
in front
copy.
of us.
Have it in our thing.
black camera would have helped a couple right here.
We're fine, we have it actually here too.
Yeah.
You know what, if you position it for the camera, that might, I don't know if the camera always zooms in on these.
Where he just had it was fine.
Okay, turn.
Okay.
Like that's fine? 'Cause there's a, yeah, there it is. So it should be fine.
We're talking about the,
You need to use the microphone.
Yep. I can give a little background, too. This was last before you on July 25th. The previous concept consisted of 9 single-family residences and 7 detached condos. This is on the site immediately north of Orchids by the Acres, contiguous with the Red Tail Pass section of the North Lake subdivision. And today they are coming in with a revised concept, which has dropped the condos that were part of it, and now is all single-family lots that are sized to comply with our R1 zoning regulations, complying with minimum lot size and width. And then I have some staff comments here regarding input we've received from the public, concerns from the North Lake Neighborhood Association. I have had conversation with Dane County Highway and Transportation Division about an access road to Highway 2. And that is, they have supported that. They support that in concept, and I have no doubt that that could be achieved. So the access to the neighborhood wouldn't be exclusively from the North Lake subdivision, which was one of the neighbors' concerns. And by the way, that access would also serve all the other access to the remainder of the parcel in the future where Orchids by the Acres is. So all those parcels to the south would come off this road.
Mark, where would that be?
I'm sorry, where
would that access road be?
Basically where, it's just above the words Lot 2. Actually, you see the easement there, Chris, if you...
It's actually north of...
No, go south.
Down.
Oh, yeah, it's easier to see.
It's right there.
So there's Highway Q here, Orchids by the Acres is here, this access, so it'll basically be improving that road.
So the existing,
That road that's already there.
Essentially a driveway there, and this
that
would
road
be...
that is there right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking at the,
It's on the
Driveway would
north...
be improved then, is that what you're saying? It's
I
on,
think it would be a road. It would be a city street.
yeah, right, but I meant where the driveway is now,
Yes.
that would be,
Yes.
correct. It'd be on the same footprint, basically.
Well, no,
A little wider.
Yeah, it'd be essentially
They're
just
kind of
north
a
of
city
it.
street.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I had for background. So,
Okay.
and if you do have comments, if you could please use the mic.
and just so I understand, Mark, Dane County said they would be okay
Yeah.
with that existing, what is it, private driveway? But it's mapped as street right-of-way.
They have seen this proposal, and the driveway would be abandoned and the street would be installed, and that would replace the driveway.
And that's okay with the existing homeowners in lots 2 and 3?
I haven't spoken with them, and somebody has a hand up, so maybe that's... maybe
Could you
that's
please
pretty
come
answered.
over here and...
Oh,
Oh,
He owns Lot 2.
Okay.
thank you.
My name is
Could you-
Musa. Musa, I own the lot 2, and I'll be happy to see that driveway go away, as I was here last time in your meeting, especially for my kids and family's safety. That driveway right now in my property, serving that 3-4 parcels for so many years, and it's right next to my garage, so kids get out, and then it's a safety concern for me. So this new proposal, I support it, meaning road should be wherever it is designated on the maps, which is 66 feet, like basically plot, which is perfectly fine. And I also ask access to that road too, so that I can eliminate the portion of the driveway on my property and close the access from Highway Q. Thank you.
could you provide your spelling of your name to Abby, please?
Musa, and last name is Ayar.
Got it.
So it would be right.
I'm a professor of economics, and I also serve in City of Baraboo Economic Development Commission, so I'm familiar with the setting. Thank you, guys.
So what is this?
Right, to get the street.
This is...
And that would be a public street. And would connect,
It says private.
I can't see on this, it would connect to Red Tail Pass.
Okay.
It is now. but
It would connect to
come across
the,
the street.
It would be Red Tail Pass
It
extended.
would be
all the
Red
way
Tail
up.
Pass
Red Tail
extended all the way
Pass
through.
Dead ends here, there's a barricade.
Right, I know which, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's a barricade, it dead ends, it's not a cul-de-sac. It's a dead end,
Yeah,
currently.
right.
Although it's a stub, indicating it was probably intended to go through at some point.
Sorry, it's a private driveway or not?
Currently, it's a private driveway, we're going to change it to a city street.
So to a large extent, that would address some of the neighbors' concerns about just having that access on Red Tail Pass. So that was one of the 3 main concerns addressed.
So the two biggest concern, this was one of them, the traffic, and number 2 is the stormwater, or maybe even stormwater is number 1. And well, they both are very important. These are the 2 biggest ones. And the third is was the lot size, I suppose. So I
Right.
think so.
And to that end, thank you for that, for mentioning that, Mayor. I
Yes.
put at your places tonight a piece of paper, which I'd be happy to provide the developers as well. Have an extra...
Which one are you talking about, the lots?
Yeah, this one here.
Lot
These are the lot
The lot
sizes.
size study.
I asked Eileen to, give us the lot sizes
So what I did-
surrounding this property.
Right.
So
So it's on one piece of paper, so it's roughly geographically accurate. So the northern portion, immediately north of the site, the lots range in size. The contiguous lots range in size from 11,800 square feet to, on the west, 18,000 square feet, almost 19,000 square feet. Those are on the north side of the site. To the west, on Sand Hill Drive, kind of northwest, you see there's a couple lots that are 12,000 square feet, and then one that's at the end of a cul-de-sac, which is why it's much larger and odd-shaped. It's 28,000 square feet. And then south, these are not contiguous to the development site, but they're south of the Orchids by the Acres. Those are generally in the 11,000 to 18,000 range. And the proposed lots vary from 7,200 to 9,200 square feet, which meets our R1 standard. If this were to be annexed and rezoned into the city, this would meet our R1 standard.
And just for the procedural history, this land is currently in the town.
Right.
It would need to be annexed. And the town approved the CSM?
No, I don't think,
Who approved this? I mean, because it's a strange-shaped lot, Lot 1. So who approved this CSM?
Oh,
It would have been an ETZ, so we would have had to approve it?
This goes back a few years. I don't recall when it was done. Maybe the developers know the history, but this goes back when before this development was even contemplated. The CSM. It has nothing to do with the current development before us.
I mean, I recognize that we have to treat a CSM as the parcel as the whole under law, but it's a strange-shaped CSM.
My guess, my understanding and recollection of the history is that they subdivided this for the purpose of selling off Lot 1. Bill, did you have a history of this?
Date of when the CSM was done.
It's not clear to me either. 2015? Okay. That sounds about right. Any sort of further well, it would have been in the town of Westport with city consent as well. Any further subdivision obviously would be via a plat. That would be, if it's annexed to the city, which would be our assumption that it would be, the town of Westport would be supportive of that, I'm sure. Then it would be annexed and platted in the city.
yeah, you're right, it's pretty odd shape, you wonder why.
One is where that existing house is now, right?
March 6, 2015.
March 6, 2015. What's on Lot 1 right now?
That's that existing,
I don't believe there's anything on it.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Just grass.
Just grass.
so the existing house is south of that? Okay.
So the existing houses, you needed the CSM to create those houses. When were they built?
You mean the houses to the south, you mean?
Yeah.
On Lot 2 and 3.
Lot 2 and 3.
Lot 2, 1972.
Okay.
But these three lots own, actually four property, owned by the same owner.
Right.
And then, you know, the history of it.
Yeah.
So I think the owners to my south wanted to divide it a little bit more equally so they can sell my lot. So I purchased the lot I own now. It was created at that date, I guess, this new CSM. And they used to own the orchard and this lot around it too. I think they made it that ugly shape just to sell the orchard. And the remaining lot remained like that shape, ugly shape, actually, enveloping the orchard.
So your house is that older house?
72, a lot too.
And then there's one house south of you, right?
Yeah.
That's correct. That's newer, maybe 15 years or so.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the acres.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
It's a shared driveway.
And his house is 13,000 square feet. almost.
No, that's CSM. Oh.
Yeah, it's right here.
No, that's the CSM number.
That's the SM number, okay.
That's not the area.
Okay.
Part of the shape of this, the reason why it got parceled like it did is they wanted to sell the business separately from all the land.
So I know I can't ask and you don't have to answer, but is the business is not for sale?
It is not. I approached him.
Is it, again, I know that legally we only deal with the parcel in front of us. That's all we can do, deal with the CSM legally. But is it likely to be sold? I'm just understanding, if you're planning the area, absent CSMs and parcel boundaries, you could do a much more coherent, integrated development plan if all the parcels were available, but they're not. But
We are setting this up for a future access to that. We have the
Kurt, I considered the same question, and I agree with what he's about to say.
Yeah.
We made this road narrower, but it's a larger right-of-way. So this is the easement that they have to access back here. And this is, we've got a nice radius here for turning, but this particular section of road is a little narrower, but it is, if this ever does,
Right.
we could, whoever gets this would have the ability now to put a regular-sized road in there and then do lots like that.
So it's a private drive now, but you're having 66 feet of right-of-way,
Correct. And that,
which is the street, the city minimum.
correct, yeah, and their right-of-way that they have here, the easement for their access is within that 66 feet.
So at a future date.
The future date, yeah. It's kind of like the dead end right here. The idea was something was going to happen at some point. That's kind of what we're trying to do here too.
Same with like Bellefontaine, you can see a stub, you know it's going through someday.
Another one of the issues that was
Yes.
mentioned many times was the school buses and the number of them that would go through here. Is there some reason why they would have to travel through this division and they couldn't just pick people up on Highway Q?
Well,
No, but there will be a road there, so I guess they won't be going to the existing red tail.
well, actually, this is a lot more different than that, because this actually is in the Wanakee School District. This
Yes.
specific lot, so there won't be any, unless school buses happen to be routed that way, the same bus is not going to pick up kids on both ends of Red Tail Pass, the old and the new part, because they're going to different school districts, unless this were to be detached from the Wanakee School District and added to the city of Middleton.
And all of North Lake is in the city of Middleton.
Yeah, and so from a planning standpoint, and I've mentioned this already to the firm that's doing some planning for the Wanakee School District, asking them to convey to Wanakee the interest that the city would have in trying to keep the lands west of Q in this area, to have that be part of the Middleton Cross Plains School District. It just makes a world of sense for the kids, with their immediate neighbors. Obviously, everything east of Q in the town of Westport and in the city of Middleton and Bishops Bay goes to Wanakee now, and that's, Q is an appropriate dividing line for that. But this part, it would be nice if it were added to the city in the future, but that's not in our jurisdiction here.
And Milton Cross Plain Area School District, I have talked to them, they have no problem, so they would be happy to.
So what we're really talking about is 2 or 3 buses that are going through and not the 6 or more that was mentioned in some people's remarks?
I don't recall the conversation about the specific
My
details.
understanding is now that we've got access to Q, that changes the game a little bit.
Yep.
Reduces through the Middleton portion of North Lake, should address the traffic on Red Tail Pass existing today with that, because that was what the concern was, that it was going to be coming down and back on Red Tail, and now we've got access to Q, so that should be not as big an issue as what it was once.
Well, my point is still that there are only 3 buses possibly that could go there instead of the number that people were mentioning before.
There would likely be one more bus to go up. I mean, I don't think they would send more than one bus to pick up potentially 15.
So it would only be one bus.
I would speculate. I mean, that's.
Yeah, so the bus traffic is not a huge concern.
Yeah.
Right.
Shouldn't be.
That's
Well, we
that's the only
don't
point
know
I
who
wanted to
will be
make.
buying these lots, whether or not they have children or what ages. Yeah, so,
So if we understand that some of the concern of residents in the initial petition was concern about the condos, those have been changed to single families, and then the access through Red Tail, that's been solved by the access to Q. Now, the immediate adjoining homeowner who thought they were buying at a dead end, even though it's never said it's a cul-de-sac, I mean, they may still object, but that, it's clearly the road is designed eventually to cut through.
And Kurt,
We just look at it, and it's clear.
Yeah.
So that it's really the issue now of the density question, the zoning, R1 or whatever, and the stormwater, which does suggest, can we refer this to water resources? Because the issue of stormwater is a little complex, right? Because there's how it connects with the facilities in Orchid Heights because their homeowners association owns some of the stormwater facilities, right?
I think that may be the best thing, that we should get their input before we go any far, because the stormwater is the biggest issue right now.
Right. I mean, just for the neighbors, even if we recommend approval of the zoning change or the site division, if the developer can't comply with the stormwater code, you can't develop it. And right now, I mean, my argument is right now, what's there's just open grass, so the water just runs right into Orchid Heights. So whatever's developed will have to capture and retain that volume of water on there.
It's a typical thing with Dane County, whenever you develop any parcel, whatever rain or water, you have to contain it within your site, and that's a county thing.
Right.
Which I was planning for that.
But the other issue is right now the water coming across that highway Q is actually also coming on this part, and that's going to create some different issues. But of course, your responsibility is only the water from that part of the land, so.
So if I understand what's being said here, is that you will address the stormwater issue on your development.
We have to.
When we're going.
Yeah, and I know you do, but I'm just saying, just so
But we
everybody
can't,
understands.
we can't make them address the stormwater that originates off their parcel
Oh,
and
no,
flows over their
that's
parcel.
not what I said.
Right, right.
You know, they have to address normal water can run off that parcel and is presently running off
Yeah.
of it today.
Right.
That's
If
exactly
they
right.
have more hard surface, they gotta address it.
And
I understand, though, that the neighbors are concerned, because they see water flowing across that parcel, and they think that that parcel owner is obligated to solve that, even though it originates somewhere else, and he's not.
I think stated, what Leaf said, it stated maybe even one step further. Any development of this site has to comply, and it shows the two stormwater ponds. Any development of this site with the stormwater ponds is bound to improve this. It will not make it worse, and it
It'll make
likely
it
will
better.
make it better.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's my understanding of our stormwater ordinance. We have as strict an ordinance as any in Dane County, and I think this would, if there's water coming off the site now from Q, I think this will actually help retain that water.
But it just,
Address that
Right.
until
right.
we get into the.
Into the
portion of
design.
this. That's what we're here looking for.
And I'm just saying for my many friends who live in that neighborhood, in the same way, we can't require a developer to abate traffic that originates off-site. We can't require a developer to abate stormwater that originates off-site, only what's on-site.
I think with what we're doing, we will be able to contain and or capture and contain better than what's maybe happening right now.
So if we assume that the stormwater is going to be taken care of, because it has to be taken care of, what we're really left with is the subject of density.
So would it be helpful to make a motion to at least refer this to Water Resources, or will it automatically go there anyway?
No, but I think I would like that, their input, but also it's not annexed, so I think would we be jumping the gun before it's annexed, or would that has to happen first?
This is a request for concept review, and concept review is not binding on the city, but the reason this is here, developers take this step, which is outlined in our ordinance, is they want to know whether they're on the right track before they invest in more detailed plans and start going through the process and developing begin the annexation process and the land division process, planning process.
That's the question of density.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a question of density.
Regarding density, the issue before, the concern from residents has been that they didn't like non-single-family residences, and that issue has been addressed. But as I understand it, there continues to be a concern about the size of the lots. And, if this were to be annexed to the city and be zoned R1, this entire development would be legal, would meet our zoning requirements.
And since that's the case, what right does anybody have to question the size of the lots in respect to some of the lots?
So with that all said, I'll just make a motion that we tell the developers they are on the right path, and whatever the right words are for that motion.
To recommend concept approval.
Concept approval, thank you.
I'll second it.
So now the,
Mayor, may I make a comment? Okay, just since you motioned and seconded, for discussion, Mark Sullivan, I'm the alder for the district. I live in North Lake. And the concerns of the residents here are serious, I believe. The density is too high along the North Lake lot lines. When one lot owner has two houses in their backyard on their footprint, that's not single-family, that's multifamily, and that's wrong. And so the density needs to be improved, all right? So right now, the lots are along that along that property line are somewhere around 7,200 square feet. And quite honestly, they need to be moved up to about 9,800 square feet, right? And that's
So
has to
I-
be there,
Oh, I gotta-
right? The second thing is that the stormwater is an issue. North Lake has spent countless funds trying to correct the stormwater issues left to the neighborhood association by its developer. This property drains into private property of North Lake Neighborhood Association, okay? And it will not allow any other development to dump additional water onto private property. So I think that from a concept perspective, those things need to be taken into consideration. And I think you should tell the developer, go back to the drawing board and make this a little bit less dense. Thank you.
Well,
Can
you go ahead.
since it's discussion, well, with regard to the stormwater, it can't dump additional water onto your property. That's what the stormwater code requires.
We haven't seen any engineering to support that.
This is just concept.
This
I
is
get
concept
that.
approval of the
So-
density. So R1, if it's zoned R1, R1 is a single-family district. Now, the lot sizes are different than what they were in North Lake, but it's disingenuous to call it multifamily. It's single-family
If
detached
you have
housing.
2 houses in your backyard, that is multifamily. And I'm sorry, there is no other way that you can explain that.
Okay, so what should we zone it? Do you want to create a new zoning district that is
R1 doesn't have to.
R.5 or
Doesn't
some
have
R-
to be 7,200 square feet. It says the minimum lot size is 7,200 square feet.
Okay, but we need to attach a zoning code, a zoning designation to the parcel. We don't have one in our ordinance that has the lot sizes you're talking about, so we'd
What
have
I'm
to use-
asking for is that for this committee to help the developer understand that the density has to be less than proposed.
So we'd have to recommend using PDD to allow a developer to have less density than the zoning ordinance requires. I'm trying to understand where this goes.
Make a comment, please.
Yeah.
Yes, Cindy.
You know, it seems to me like Mark is using the word wrong to say it's wrong to have a smaller lot next to a larger lot. And that's what I'm struggling with, whatever the definition of wrong is. What that says to me is when you develop within a city, you can never have things that are adjacent to a development be different
Right.
in lot size than what's already there. And we have lots of evidence in
Yeah.
the city of Middleton where that simply is not the case.
Correct.
So I'm struggling with why this is wrong when it complies with R1 zoning.
Right.
I think you're both are saying the same thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with
Well, I
you.
was just trying to say it a little, because I think, what I heard Mark say was that because there are larger lots adjacent to this, it's wrong to have smaller lots. And
Right.
that's the part I'm struggling with.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out procedurally how we would effectuate his desire for larger lot sizes, because we have an R1 zoning, and this is R1, this is single-family detached housing. The only way we could make his request for larger lot sizes is to zone it PDD, but that goes against the entire spirit of PDD, which is forcing on a developer less flexibility than the zoning code allows.
And even if you're not talking about a type of zoning to accommodate this, you're talking about adjacencies and not being able to have anything different adjacent to something that's already existing.
Right.
That's the part I don't.
I'm not suggesting that the lot sizes have to be the same as North Lake. What I'm suggesting is that they have to be bigger than what they are proposed.
So Mark, you looked some of these, you have this map, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the lot 45 and the proposed lot is difference of about 2,000. And then the second lot, proposed lot is exactly the breadth is the same, but the lot is different. And then there are 2 other lots which are 47 and 48, they have two homes against it, but then you go to lot 49, 50, 51. 51 is, there are three proposed lots against one, so there are only.
We're talking about the removal of maybe one or two houses out of this development to make it
Okay,
acceptable.
okay. Any more? Thank you. Any questions for Mark while he's there? So anything else that you want to ask? Okay, thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that.
I had one
Okay.
other comment to make, which I didn't call out in the staff comments, and that is, if you look carefully at the site plan, they indicated a 15-foot side yard for both lots 1 and 7. And that is, I presume, and I presume you're trying to create more of a buffer with the existing residences. I don't know why else you would show 15 feet instead of our normal 8 feet.
That's correct. Plus, we've also changed our layout of the homes so that lot 45 doesn't abut two houses, because we originally had two condos next to it.
Yeah.
Lot 46 originally had two houses next to it, which we've given them to one. So we've actually listened to what they've said and tried to minimize the effect of the lot sizes.
Okay, so, yeah, go ahead.
Well, so that, I was just going to point that out because I didn't call that out in the staff comments. The other lots, 9 through 14, would, well, it says here for 13, it says a 25-foot rear yard. Is there a reason why you said that instead of 30 feet? Because that does not comply, actually. I hadn't noticed that before, for lot 13. But otherwise, all the other ones, that's an error? Well, since you didn't mention it on 14 and the line is in the same spot, I was wondering if that was an error. So I just wanted to make those additional comments. And then the difference between, if you look at what I handed out to you, the difference between lot 45 and lot 44, that difference there in lot size is 6,000 square feet. So that's, there are a variety of lot sizes in North Lake. As Alder Sullivan points out, these are all smaller. What's proposed is smaller than the lots that are in this area and probably in all of North Lake.
45 and 44, where is 44?
Is immediately north of 45. I'm just pointing out
okay,
that
okay.
I'm just pointing out that our
Okay.
lot sizes do vary in North Lake by several thousand square feet, but none of them are as small as the lots that are proposed here. That is a true statement.
Can I follow up on that?
Yes.
So his proposed lots 9, 10, 11, and 12 show a 35-foot rear setback, right? And the R1 code requires 30.
We shortened it up to make it, the buffer a little greater.
Right. No, I'm just trying to, so if you built according to the R1, you'd have a 30-yard setback. Well, so how far what's the setback for lots 48 and 47 within North Lake? Do we know?
30.
30.
Well,
And
I don't know what it was built to, but the minimum requirement is 30 feet.
Well, and so there's like 65 feet in between with some plantings that you can
They're big trees.
mitigate at least some of the perceived visual impact.
So you could also have a berm perhaps there?
I'm thinking of the
I mean, one
topography.
of the biggest issues still will be the stormwater. I think that has to be addressed.
That will
Right,
be
yeah.
addressed through the county. We won't be able to move forward after a certain point if we cannot meet that requirement. So once we get through everything,
Okay.
we have to get an engineered plan proving that no water will leave the site, be contained within our detention ponds. We can't prove that we can do that. We can't do the development. We're
Okay, so that will be addressed, and we already took care of the traffic issues, then there are some other minor things, so. Okay, more questions, David, yes.
Point of clarification for me. I'm still hung up over this private drive. Is there a difference in code between a cul-de-sac and a dead end? A cul-de-sac with a turning circle and a dead end?
A cul-de-sac has a turning radius that will allow a fire truck to make a complete, be able to turn around without having to do a Y-turn.
Okay, so there is a designated
Yes.
difference.
And a cul-de-sac always has lots around the
All the
full
way
bowl,
around
but
it.
clearly indicating that a cul-de-sac intends never to be developed as a through
Extended,
street.
yeah,
But
understood.
we have a lot of stub dead ends in the city, which are clearly designed that at some point in time, they may go through.
Okay,
So this is a dead end, this is the existing road. It
right,
comes and
yeah,
just-
understand.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so, what is the length of a cul-de-sac?
The maximum length that we typically would allow in our subdivision ordinance, I believe, is 1,000 feet.
Yep.
By having the street go through, if Red Tail Pass didn't connect with Q, then both of these, then they would, combined with the existing Red Tail Pass, exceed 1,000 feet, which is one reason why I wanted to make sure this connects to Q. It's just best, it's good to have a grid, and for emergency response, if nothing else.
Because your original proposal had 2 cul-de-sacs. Now it just has one.
Right.
Yep, yep.
And as he noted, the plan in the future is, this is actually being thoughtfully laid out so that in the future, you can see above the words Orchids Greenhouse, above the word Orchids, you see future. So the idea is that this could be extended southward in the future. My understanding, the reason as to why it's labeled a private drive currently is because having the full width is problematic because of the existing easement that you see, a 20-foot egress easement. They did not want to encumber that at all, even though I've had this argument with several developers. I don't see how building a street over an egress easement is encumbering it, but apparently there's some legal issues there that they wanted to avoid. And so that's why the private drive is narrower than what our normal street cross-section is. The idea is in the future, the street would be widened to meet our normal standard.
Okay.
So how about, would it meet the fire code?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's not. We have streets like this all over, we have other streets like this in the city.
Okay, so that's not a problem.
No.
So what are the other issues here? Any other questions, David? No. Dennis? Kathy? Cindy?
Good.
Okay, so we are also referring it to the Water Commission?
I mean, yeah, if we can, refer it to Water Resources.
I think we have to, I suppose so.
I mean, they'll have to look at it anyway when it's,
What do you think?
because this is concept review, and so does he petition for a rezoning and an annexation at the same time? Because it would require.
Those two steps can overlap, certainly. Obviously, that's not before you tonight. They just wanted feedback to know
On
if
the
this
development.
is something, if they're on the right track. Again, it's not binding on the city, on the Plan Commission. But there's no need to refer this, in my view, to Water Resources right now, because those steps will be taken when there's more detailed plans prepared.
So, I mean, I think they're on the right track to make it conform with R1, because that fits the character of the housing near there, which is also R1. Now, the fact that R1 has changed becomes the issue, but R1, I think, is, if it comes into the city, it should be zoned R1, and then this site plan conforms with that. I can't imagine another way we would zone it.
The city of Middleton's R1 has not changed since North Lake went in. They went underneath the same R1 as what we're applying for here.
It hasn't changed since '84.
Hasn't changed since '84.
And I think, quite frankly, if my memory is right, I'm not sure we've had any R1 subdivision developed since North Lake. I think everything else has been PDD. And everything else has had smaller lots.
32 foot wide lots.
In some cases.
This makes Dennis happy not to do so much PDD.
Yeah.
That's right.
And frankly, there's no reason why they couldn't still apply if they want to annex into the city and go through the zoning process. There's no reason they can't apply for PDD. But the way this is laid out, they don't need to.
Okay, so there was a motion, right? Or is it only to provide input?
Motion's been seconded.
Okay, well, if there are no more questions, I call the question. All those in favor
Can I
say
ask what the motion was? I thought the motion
To
was to
recommend
refer
concept-
to.
to recommend concept approval.
Okay, all right.
So are you happy with the motion, or?
I misunderstood. I thought it still had the referral to Water Resources in it.
Just concept approval.
Just concept approval. I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes, so. Okay, the next one is going to be simple one. Direction on sidewalk at River Valley Bank 8329 Murphy Drive, Abbey.
Abby gets to deal with this pedestrian issue.
Yes, we talked about this at the last meeting with the development of the Holiday Inn Express, where we're requiring sidewalk along the south side of Murphy Drive there. We would have a missing link then at River Valley Bank. So our recommendation is for direction to staff, and this also would require council approval, to add sidewalk at River Valley Bank on the south side of Murphy Drive. This would be at the expense of the bank. It could be done either as part of our normal sidewalk program next year and then billed to the bank, or the bank could hire their own contractor to install sidewalk there. I did speak with Evan Wing, who's the market manager and regional sales coach there, and I gave him a heads up, as well as a cost estimate that our engineering technician came up with for the addition there.
Okay, any questions for Abby?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, further questions now? Yes, indeed.
I'm just curious, do you recall what the cost estimate was?
Rich Wyatt came up with the cost estimate, and he thought that the cost would be around $10,000.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Is this in a TID? Do we normally, I don't know what our practice is.
We
Do pay
normally
for it?
assess it to the adjacent
Special assessment to adjacent
owner.
property owners, so,
Yeah.
okay.
We got to keep our principles as they are, so,
Yeah,
okay.
To the extent we can pay for sidewalks through special assessments rather than TIF is.
Yes, well, okay, I need a motion.
Hubbard and seconded by Dorn.
Oh, okay, so, okay, any more discussion now? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. All right. We are on to the last item, which is the concept review for Notre Dame Village at the Black Nine, the community of Bishop Bay. So this is Mark?
Eileen wrote the staff comments and forwarded to me this afternoon 2 emails, which I distributed right before the meeting. One email is from Norm Arndt, who's our fire district plan reviewer, and the other email is from Joe Doyle at Veerbecker, basically responding to Norm Arndt, as I understand it.
Okay.
And then there's also 2 maps that came from Veerbecker, so that's what I put at your places before the meeting, and then we of course had the developer here and to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, so.
Wait.
In a nutshell, what the emails say basically is that there are lingering concerns about how the site is accessed. That's the main concern that I've had all along, and I know that fire department seems to still have some concerns. There's also issues of utility connections, water main looping. It sounds like this is sufficient if you look at the comment from Joe.
So just concept-wise, we've seen this a couple of times.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if Terrence can you explain what has changed since the last time we saw it, so I get a sense of what we're being asked to concept approve? I mean, because concept approval, whether or not the fire department thinks there's adequate pumping capacity, that doesn't affect our concept approval?
Exactly. Yes, this is Taylor, again, to you all. So essentially, the last time we were here, you guys looked at the revised plan from 12 lots to 9 lots. At the last Plan Commission meeting, you guys asked for us to look into the density issue and resolve that with Eileen. So accordingly, we met with staff and have taken the revised approach where we're looking to amend our master development plan, which is our PDD for the development, to show that the density is there. So essentially, the MDP was adopted in late 2000s and showed a map that was concept but not platted. So since then, we've platted the entirety of the back 9 development, are looking to include Outlot 6, which is 7.6 acres, and gets us to the density that we need to be below, which is 3.9. The goal is, or whatever, the
4.2.
ceiling, I guess, is 4.2. So that's kind of where, that's the one part, which is the MDP request change, which is the map down there. This is the revised map compared to the original. And then the other is concept approval for the SIP for the 9 lots. As Mark said, we've worked with fire department, city engineering, and Eileen to kind of resolve various questions that have come up. It's my opinion that those are things that we can address, especially after we have concept approval, as far as, essentially at this point we're looking for a green light from you guys to say, we like the overall concept, now work on, the modeling and giving the engineers the green light to push forward.
I just want to clarify. So there's 2 concept approvals you're looking for.
Yep.
One is a concept approval for the GIP modification about the overall density. Second is an SAP modification for the lots, these 9 lots.
That's correct, yes.
And these other apartment buildings that are nearby, that's approved as part of the GIP.
Those have SIP approval?
SIP approval.
So
Okay.
2 of the buildings there's 3 apartment buildings.
Some of them are already built,
2 of
right?
them have already been built.
Okay,
The third we're looking to build. And
Okay.
just, as I've explained to Eileen, the impetus for this development is we're trying to look to do the road construction for this apartment building, which has not been built yet, at the same time
you do
that
that.
we're doing that, so that we're not disturbing the neighborhood with, construction in the years ahead.
So,
Just remind me, Callaway Court, there's no access off Callaway Court.
Emergency access only.
Emergency access only, and that's that roll bar thing you showed there. Okay.
To the extent that the other main access is blocked, then the fire department has backup access.
Because Callaway Court is,
yes, just a
that's
minute,
sign-
David.
signage, right?
Let him finish, sir. Just a second.
Yeah.
Now, go on, you finish.
Yes,
No,
David.
I finished on that.
Okay, go ahead, David.
But the emergency driveway would now go over private land? I'm looking at this drawing.
The emergency, they can come down the cul-de-sac, which is private.
Yep.
And then the emergency easement is already in place, that exists today.
Right.
And that goes over here.
I understand, but this drawing now shows lots 9 and 10, 8 and 9 coming off of the end of the private road,
Yeah,
right?
this is not correct.
No, that is correct, Terrence. That's to address, that was to address fire concerns. So that was what Norm asked for us to modify.
Right, so you've
this driveway to be too...
You've shortened the length of the private road.
Exactly.
Right?
Shorten the length of
So
which?
now it's private land.
But just so you understand, this will not be here. Because Norm it's gonna be here where it is now today, and then the road ends here, and this is a private driveway here. So this piece will not be here, which we've not had time to update the plans, because that's something that's decided recently with Norm.
Right, so that's what this is.
Not quite.
I'll show you. This piece here.
Oh, there it is.
Actually, and technically, as Terrence is saying, that is grass, that is...
This piece here will not be here.
That's technically, it's a berm right now, so as you can see from Callaway Court.
Yep, I
Yeah.
saw that one.
It's a
So,
really high berm.
Yeah.
what happened to
And there'll be a
that
cut
berm?
through on there.
No, there will not be.
There will not be a cut through. There will
There
not be a
will-
cut
There's
through.
already an access easement to serve the apartments at that location.
Right here.
Yes. So there's only one cut or one. Okay.
There's only one, the existing cut.
so Taylor, there will be no berm, that will be gone.
No, the berm will
The berm will stay.
Berm will stay.
Yes.
So how would you access the Callaway then if the berm would stay in case of
You
emergency?
have to go
Through
through
with
the
the
There is
parking.
no berm here.
Oh,
It goes up through here. So this is already here, this easement's here.
It goes through the parking lot,
Yes.
not through the housing street.
Correct.
Yes, okay. All right.
And fire department's okay with that?
Yes.
They are.
If the fire department's happy, I'm happy.
yeah, I guess that's all right, yeah.
You don't want the fire department mad at you.
No. And that's why we've been working closely with Norm, with the fire department, to make sure that, and we'll continue to do so after we have concept approval to get to the final.
So the real, go ahead.
I have a question on a whole different subject.
So
go
the
ahead.
SIP modification is largely whether we kind of approve the design and the proposed lot sizes of these houses. Right, and these lot sizes, remind me, are like your village lots?
They're a little bit smaller, so it's a new lot type would be the urban residential.
That's
so currently these lots are, 7,000, 8,000 square feet.
Okay.
There's one that's 5,000, or no, that's 8,000 too.
One that 8,000 square feet.
Yeah, the
There's one that's
smallest is
13.
7,000 something.
Okay.
Yes, David, you got a question?
Cindy first? No.
Cindy? Well, maybe, okay, Cindy, yes.
Mine is a much broader question, so someone still needs to put into perspective for me. We have 9 more dwellings here than we had approved in the whole entire Bishop's Bay development.
The back nine.
Yeah,
The back 9. And so we talked about the density, adding those 9 lots. We talked about this way back when, or how many ever lots we started with, I think 12 when we started. So someone needs to put in perspective for me how we're accounting for the addition of these units within the limit that we had set. And I know I've said before, why do we need to do this now? Why don't we do it at a time when, or if we need to do it at all, to make sure we don't exceed the total number of dwelling units that we had in the plan in the beginning. And so I can understand you want to put in streets when you're putting in streets and all that kind of stuff, so I can understand some of the need for doing it now, but I'm concerned about lack of documentation or change in the documentation that we had previously approved in terms of not just these units, but the entire number of units.
Okay.
You guys mind if I address
Yes,
this one?
go ahead.
So, yeah, great question. So again, we have a PDD, and under that PDD, we have a master development plan. The master development plan, page 20, specifies that Bishop's Bay as a whole, which is all 7 neighborhoods, shall not exceed 2,950 units. Goes on to say that, there's boundaries that will be defined and adjusted as SIP lot layouts are submitted. It also mentions how they want to allow a measure of flexibility so future SIP submittals can respond to market needs at the time the SIP is submitted. So again, we're not exceeding the 2,950 units because we're not at that yet. We're at 342 is what we're looking to propose. Originally, back when this MDP PDD was submitted, there were 415 units planned for the back 9. So 415 were proposed originally. We're looking to propose 342, and that's including these 9 units. So we've got an excess capacity of 73 units just in this neighborhood. 73 units that we'll be using in other neighborhoods so that we can move around the numbers in each neighborhood.
And that includes your proposed apartment complex here?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, the apartments are already included.
I understand what you're saying, and there's still something in the back of my mind that is unsettled. And so I would like for, it's too bad Eileen isn't here because she might have those numbers that specifically respond to that. But I would like for that to be, and maybe I'm the one that's wrong, it could very well be, but I would like for that to be clarified before we make decisions.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that?
So I'd like to respond to that.
Go ahead.
Density, maximum density approved for this neighborhood is 4.2. With these units, will be a density of 3.9.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Will be below.
Yeah.
Here are the units, we took out 100 units right here. This is gone. So we've done a significant reduction in this neighborhood already, which no one seems to give us credit for.
Well, I haven't gone back and looked at all the history of it, but I think there might be a variation on that story, and that's what I need to have clarified.
Then the question
no variation. The confusion is that Eileen, bless her heart, we totally disagree on this, but
yes. It's too bad she got
city ordinances are very specific about how you calculate density, and the way that calculated density was being calculated was an arbitrary removal of the open space that was platted with this neighborhood. That is not allowed under your city ordinances. You must include all the open space and the housing units in the neighborhood as they were approved. And that's what we're doing to get the density calculation of 3.9.
But that's in the density of normal zoning ordinances, not in the PDD density calculation, right?
That is the density of this neighborhood with these 9 units. And the city cannot arbitrarily remove open space from the neighborhood to artificially create a false density, which is what has been occurring. And that's where the confusion lies.
Let me ask a follow-up.
I would
Okay,
just say,
Go ahead.
just one more
Cindy,
thing. Yeah.
Cindy, go ahead, Cindy,
There's
and
a
then
difference
Kurt.
of opinion between our city planner and the applicant. In my mind, we need to have that resolved before we just look at
And-
these 9 houses.
And that's why I spent a lot of time between the last meeting and this meeting to make sure that I could stand here. It's unfortunate Eileen is not here because I was able to sit down with her, and the logical conclusion was, yes, she was okay. If you include, so again, this is the original, I'm not sure where the proposed map is, but the proposed map includes Outlot 6, which we paid for, platted, and dedicated to the city as part of this plat, as part of this neighborhood. And so Eileen was okay with this new one, where it includes Outlot 6, which is up there.
Taylor, here's the question I have. If that's the case, why doesn't, in her recommendation, why does she say feedback to the applicant? Why doesn't she say it's been resolved? That's what I don't
I'm
understand.
very frustrated with this.
So, but it,
Comply with the ordinances, and that calculation that's being done is unfair to us because it does not comply with your laws.
Which ordinance? Well,
The density
It's
calculation
PDD.
ordinance. And the calculation of including the including.
We're looking for
okay, just one, please, one at a time.
Yeah, and
Okay,
we're
go
looking
ahead.
for
Taylor.
concept approval.
Okay, Taylor, could you please wait,
It's real simple, math. Your ordinances require that we dedicate public open space, which we did with each plat. That number of acres of open space and the number of units in this neighborhood is what was required to calculate the density. That's the ordinances. You can't arbitrarily remove the open space from the neighborhood and pretend that it doesn't exist and then calculate a false density. That is not allowed under your ordinances, and it's a false way of calculating density.
Yes,
We have
Taylor.
done it correctly.
Yeah.
She's spent a lot of time with Taylor. Correct me if I'm wrong, but she's in agreement with that
Yeah,
now.
she was the one who wanted me to, she asked that I tweak the submittals. I met with her before I made these submittals to make sure that it was submitted and accurate in my submittal. So, but let's take a step back. Again, we're looking for conceptual approval. We still need to go through a lot of hurdles to get our final sign-off. So we still need to go to joint zoning. We then need to go to Common Council for conceptual. We then need to come back for a public hearing in front of Plan Commission. Once we have approval at Plan Commission, then we go back to Common Council for final approval. So we're not looking to have this approved if everything goes perfectly, which we all know how this goes, early November. So, and then another step that I want to add, which is, why is the density important, right? So we've dedicated park, as Taryn said, so it's not an open space issue. This development has more open space than any development that I've seen in this city. The issue is water, sewer, stormwater. So stormwater is being addressed on site for this project. Sewer, our engineers have verified and sent the modeling to the city engineers to show that there is sufficient capacity for sewer. And then the other is water. Again, our engineers have sent the modeling to Strand and to the city engineer showing that there is sufficient capacity for these 9 units. Now, our engineer Vierbecker wants to set up a meeting with Strand and the city engineer to finally have a consensus on the water capacity issue. But again, as I said to Eileen, I don't know if that needs to be addressed at the conceptual level. As long as our engineers say that they can prove it, I think conceptually we can move to the next level of making it a condition to approval that there be modeling that we pay for, like we always do, with Strand to show sufficient capacity. What I told Eileen, I want to wait, and I told Sean Stowski was there as well, I want to wait on the Strand modeling because I don't want to pay for that until we have some kind of consensus on what the concept of this whole change is.
But intuition would tell you, since we're not developing 100 units in the old driving range in this neighborhood, and our pipes were sized, and we paid for extra capacity in the water pipes, and we paid for the lift station at Orc Heights to be large, the pumps to be large to handle our capacity. So we paid for that extra capacity, which we're going to use down the road in the future someday within the overall development. But there's literally extra capacity for us to have these 9 units. We're way under our capacity, although we're going to use that capacity for which we paid in the future. But we're For this 9 units, we're way under what's required.
Let me ask a question.
Okay, well, Kurt was.
That's Cindy's question.
Okay, all right.
Mark, city staff, Mark, Abby, people that are sitting here, are you comfortable with what's been represented here today with Eileen missing? Is this, because I have no way of knowing what is being said here, if that's where Eileen was coming from, and there's an agreement here with Eileen. It sure would give me more comfort, as Cindy indicated, if we had some kind of nod from city staff saying, yep, this is exactly where Eileen was going. Can you folks say that at this point in time? If not,
So when was
comfortable.
when was the last time you talked to? I talked to Aline this morning at 8:30.
I talked to Eileen at about 11 o'clock.
Today?
I said, Eileen, when you get up, are you going to be for this development or against it? Words for word, she said, I'm going to remain neutral. It's up to council to make their decision.
So you talked to her today?
I talked to her today at 11. I've been
Well,
talking to her.
neutrality does not indicate support.
That's right.
Okay, but you.
Yep,
it
I'm not saying
sounded
she
like-
supports it.
Okay.
I would like to just make a comment too, is that, quite honestly, I have to be honest and say I'm getting really frustrated. We've been at this, on this project alone for over a year. Now, you just approved in concept a project across the street, similar housing sizes, similar housing or lot sizes, and the city needs those types of houses. They need those lower price houses. And Liberty Split, you approved it. Now, you didn't even ask any questions. By the way, there is not sewer and water capacity for that Red Tail development because we paid for pumps to be increased of a specific size to accommodate our development, and they can't legally usurp that capacity. But you went ahead and approved it. We've been at this for a year, and we don't have any clue why somebody behind the scenes is pushing these buttons as opposed to. There's nothing wrong with this development. This is a hell of a good development. We compromised. This was supposed to be a 65-unit apartment building. We compromised, and we reduced it to 12 housing units as a compromise for the neighbors. We also reduced it to 9 now as a compromise. And we have huge amounts of open space for each house.
Yes, correct.
So, okay, so we have a GIP, Master Development Plan, which has the aggregate total of the number of housing units in the entire development. That's not going to change, right? Does each neighborhood have an aggregate cap on the number of units or on the density?
Has a density chart and anticipate. It says neighborhood. This is a chart word for word on page 20. Neighborhood anticipated.
I see Mark.
Mark Sullivan disagrees.
So yes.
And so earlier though, earlier you said that the original argument, the original submission for, I'm not going to legally interpret a GDP, a GIP. You said it was 415 units.
Yes.
But this memo to Eileen says 445. I understand the idea. There's an aggregate cap on the number of units. And if we let you have them here, they're moving from somewhere else.
That's right.
And at some level, that's fine. But if each neighborhood had an agreement on the number of units in the neighborhood, then it's not just a density calculation we're worried about, it's a total number of units calculation.
But it's not. It's what it is density. There's no cap.
Also, there's specific language in the MDP that specifically says we have the flexibility to move units around because we could not anticipate 10 years ago what the market will do over the next 20 years.
Yes.
That is fair.
Mark.
I have a question, and maybe this will help answer it, maybe it muddies the waters, I don't know. The original development concept, you had a map that showed this earlier. It showed development within the golf course itself. How does that relate? Show that. If you can point to that right there, that blob. How does the removal of that from your project affect the density calculation? That is a basic question that I've never understood.
Yes, so when you remove this, you have to be correct under the ordinance, you have to remove the number of units and you have to remove the acreage that's associated with it. So it affects both the acreage and the number of units. And then you recalculate density based on what's left over.
But
this is the denominator, right?
But my understanding of one reason why there's been disagreement is because you originally were counting that as part of your density calculation, Terrence.
That's
The 2,000 units does not take into account the 2,950 does not take into account acres of this. It was a function of CARPC and it's the overall stormwater impact on the regional planning for this area.
Mark, it's in your neighborhood. You have anything to say? Yeah, you can come.
Well, I'm also wondering about Mark, his view on the lot size, because I just did a little drawing here, and I took one of the Gulf Estate lots, which is to the east, is double the width of these lots. So I was curious if you thought about that.
Okay,
And again, we have we do have, in addition to Mark, which we value his input, is, we've got the public hearing after this process.
Yeah.
The bottom line is we can't, not everybody can afford a $500,000 house in this city. I don't know what we can do to get home prices down. But, we need to have houses like this. They're $350,000 to $400,000 hopefully.
Is that what they will be?
That's what we're hoping if we don't keep having the costs go up. And we've had significant costs because of this over last year.
Mark, go ahead.
I just wanted to make two comments. The first is my understanding of this is that there are limits of units per neighborhood, and those were agreed to at the time that this first neighborhood started. There was also an agreement that any consideration of building back here would be contingent upon essentially full build out, and that the city would then look at that point in time whether or not to
Full build out
of the entire development, the 2,900 homes. And then we would look at this parcel to determine whether or not this could meet some of the, whether or not there was some misses in terms of density throughout the entire development, to then possibly use this parcel to bring the density number up to the total approved units. The other point I wanted to make is that
Can I ask just a quick question?
Yeah.
So this development area was meant to be as a safety valve after the entire...
No, I don't believe it was.
I just want to make sure I get this clear.
I think what the city agreed to with Mr. Wall was that the city would have an opportunity, Mr. Wall and the city would have an opportunity to relook at this parcel to make some final adjustments to whether or not he hit his total units. Right? Not that it would be, but that at some point in the future, after the entire development was built out, we would relook at this parcel to say whether or not, well, yeah, we can give 2 units or 5 units or 10 units to get him up to his max, or as close as we could to the max.
If I understand it, then we're a little premature on developing this parcel.
Yes. The second thing, regarding water and sewer, was some of you may remember that there is a special assessment district for Orchid Heights. The development across the street is part of that assessment district. So it's a little bit disingenuous to say that the proposed development at Acres is essentially usurping someone's authority to use the water and sewer capacity. It had already been built into the models. It already had been built into the infrastructure that was at Orchid Heights, and also the water for that neighborhood. Now, it's a different thing from Terrence's viewpoint to say that, I'm paying for upgrades. But originally, that neighborhood, in fact, part of that back 9, there was some discussion from the council's perspective on how to make this happen using the existing capacity of that assessment district. So,
okay. Thank you, Mark. Now, Terrence, do you want to, why there's a push now?
Sure.
Could you not wait?
Right. So I want to ask Mark a question. When you said the sewer and water capacity, what capacity are you talking about? Because what special assessment district? Are you talking the one that's coming in 2019?
No, there's
the Orchid Heights.
There is an Orchid Heights substation, or the lift station there. Back probably at the time North Lake was developed, or possibly before then. Abby, you might know. I'm not sure the dates. But that station was upgraded at that point in time, and it considered development of not only North Lake, but of that parcel where acres are. And so it had already been included in the capacity of the lift station before Bishop's Bay was designed, before it was started building.
But we also paid an impact fee for each phase. We paid an impact.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so all I'm asking is on that. Yeah.
Mr. Wall's original comment was that this development was stealing his capacity, and what I'm trying to say is, no, it's not.
Okay, so all I'm asking is they do the sewer and water studies that we've been required to do. Right?
No,
Fair
but
is
that
fair.
was, I think Mark
So-
is right. So that was already included
But not
long
the
time
density
ago.
that
so-
they're proposing.
Yes. Okay,
Anyways, so to comment,
But you want to
I
answer the
adamantly disagree with what Mark's saying. The
Okay.
first two comments he made are his opinions. And Mark, I know you keep saying this, that we had some agreement. I never agreed to that. There was a comment made, but it was not an agreement. Just because you made a comment during the approval process does not make it an agreement with us that we have to wait 10 more years to develop this parcel. Number two, the second thing you were, what was it, the density or the?
A density per neighborhood, yeah. That's
Density
not-
per neighborhood.
that's
That is an absolute falsehood. And I want to put a stop to that right now. And if you want to show us a document to prove it, put it in front of my face. You keep saying it, you have no documentation, and quite honestly, I'm getting angry at this.
Okay,
because
so-
it's unfair to us to impose a cap which does not exist.
All we had is.
It's
the four-
unlawful for you to do so.
The only thing that applies is the 4.2 acre, or 4.2
Density.
units per acre.
Density.
That is exactly, overall for the whole neighborhood.
That's right.
But if you know the acreage for the neighborhood, you can establish the total number of units within the neighborhood.
Correct, which is
So that's what
density,
you're saying,
our
are-
density.
They're above the total.
We're not.
If-
We're at 3.9 units per acre. The cap is 4.2. We're at
If you
3.9.
look at the submittal letter, I think, and this is where I worked with Eileen
Do
on
the
this
math.
chart.
I have seen that chart, so,
So-
okay, so.
We've had a third-party engineer do the math for us. It's not complicated math. And it's
Okay.
not fair to us to have somebody make something up that's not true.
And then if I can also back up too,
Yes.
we'd like to finish a neighborhood.
Yes, this
before we
neighborhood
move
is
on
done.
to the next neighborhood.
So
as you
that's
guys
your,
know,
that's your reason wanting to
that
do
is
it now?
the reasoning. We want to finish a neighborhood, finish construction there,
Right.
move on to the next neighborhood. It's only apt,
Right.
especially when the PDD has a ceiling of 2,950 units.
Okay, so how would it be if we sit together with the planning staff and sort this out? Would that be legal, right?
We keep talking about that.
No, I want to
for
be
12
there.
months now.
I know, I want to be there and just finish it off. So let's see what the issues are, so.
Can we conceptually approve this and work through those
Right.
issues as a condition to final approval? I am confident in all the meetings I've sat through with our engineers and the thousands and thousands of dollars we are spending with our engineers, consultants, and our architects, that we will be able to remedy every hurdle that is brought up, as we have been doing with
And that
Eileen.
we're in compliance with all of the rules.
And we are, and
ordinances and zoning.
we vehemently believe that we are in compliance with the MDP, and that the MDP affords us this flexibility to do a development just like this.
Okay,
so-
I would imagine that Aline would be well tomorrow, hopefully day after. So how about if we meet whenever she is and let's sort it out? Yeah, yes.
I mean,
go
because,
ahead.
okay. Trying to think this through, to see if we can come to a solution. If we give concept approval to the GIP amendment, we're saying that we as a commission believe, like, let's call it conditional concept approval, that we believe that if you are allowed to do this, it seems reasonable to do this now so that you can complete this neighborhood. If you're not allowed to do it, then our conditional concept approval doesn't mean anything.
That's right. If we don't
And then
comply,
then
it
the
doesn't mean
conditional SIP concept approval says, if you can bring in these 9 units, it looks good to have them on this single loaded street in this configuration. And, I mean, that sounds something I could vote for, that it's we're creating a new system, but it's a conditional concept approval, right? I mean,
And this
it's
is-
concept approval subject to conditions, which if you
Right.
don't meet the conditions, you don't.
comply.
And again, a concept approval is not binding either. And this is what you and I discussed the last time we were here 2 weeks ago. So, and this is where Terrence is somewhat frustrated because.
Where's the parcel
we
we're
keep
talking
pushing
about
this back.
on this big master map?
This is right here.
Oh, okay, there. And the rest of the back 9 is finished?
Done.
Yeah. All of it's done. And that's why you guys are approving the Phase 5 plat, which is in Westport.
So
We're moving on to Westport.
Phase 5 plat in Westport is the farm or the
Farm and prairie.
Yes, Cindy,
so
go
those are
ahead.
both.
I'm much more comfortable with what you just suggested
Okay.
than I am with some sort of convoluted conditional.
I think in the long run, it may be better, let's sit it down, have a cup of tea or coffee, and we walk through this, and I did have a meeting at 8:30 this morning, but I wish we were all there at that time, and this is what she had said at that time, that provide the input, and we go from there, so.
But
So-
Can I just?
I think it's the sense of the
Yeah.
commission that if staff agrees with your analysis, that yes, you can have these units in this neighborhood, then I don't know why you need we agree that yes, you can have these units.
Can meet
And
with
then
Eileen.
I think
just wanna
the
make it-
design of those, that's fine.
So I just want to make one correction. When you said that if staff agrees, then yada, yada,
Yeah,
that's not the case. Staff can disagree,
right.
but I have the right under ordinances, even if staff disagrees. I just want to make that clear. Staff can say they disagree, but if the ordinance says something different, ordinances govern.
I
Right,
asked
but
Eileen. what
you're
her-
asking us to interpret ordinances and overrule staff, which, again, we could
No,
do, but we would need a more detailed analysis to show us that.
And this is
No,
where
we have the
Eileen said
tables
to me
shown.
this morning, which is, I asked Eileen, I said, well, what's your opinion? Because I don't want to go into this blind again,
Yeah,
where we're
yeah.
walking in front of you guys, and we keep talking about slightly different things, but again, we're here, we started this thing in February with submittals, and Eileen said, my opinion doesn't matter, it's up to the Plan Commission. So now you guys are saying, it's not up to you guys, you want to know what she thinks. So it's a little tough, and
up to
Eileen's
you.
issues are not with the MDP, her issues are with, making sure that we address the water capacity, making sure that, the private access road isn't too long. The MDP change is just a Band-Aid to get over the density issue. Because the density, again, we've got this ceiling, we're talking about 342 of 2,950 units. We're talking about 9 units out of 2,950 units. That's like, I'm not good at, I'm a lawyer, not an accountant, so I can't even give you that math, but I'm telling you it's a micro percent.
But it's also, I think it's important conceptually that, that a developer should be able to rely on the MDP and the zoning that we have approved. And we should be able to rely on the density that we got approved here 10 years ago. This is a big project. We need to know that we can count on you and trust that you're going to follow through on what you agreed with us. And we've made tons of compromises throughout this development, and we never get credit for any of it, quite honestly. And we asked for one little thing, and I still don't know, quite honestly, I still don't know why Mark is against this. I still don't know what the issue is. No one has ever told me
I don't
what's
think anybody
driving
is
this.
against anyone. We are here to.
Against this development.
Well, I don't
understand it.
I don't think anybody is against the development either. So this morning, the objections which she had were the access. So on one way you have the Callaway, and I actually went there and I looked at the berm. I went on the top of the berm. I walked this area.
Good.
So
Thank you.
it is not that I haven't seen it.
Great.
So the other was the access, that road coming from the apartments. The issue is the access. So I think, so if we were to just wait a couple of days, and I'm not really sure that she had any serious illness. She was just fine this morning.
Okay, good.
And I think we can sort it out. I don't really see that there's such a big deal here.
The access is not the issue
Yeah, my
about.
only concern is waiting another so going this coffee route, and then waiting another 2 weeks for Plan Commission, which then pushes our public hearing back another 30 days, which then pushes back our joint zonings meeting this Thursday. So our plan was to go to joint zoning to discuss this then. So it pushes that all back. So I'm just.
But it can still go to the joint zoning. Yes, Abby, go ahead.
I was texting with Eileen, and she said that she her biggest concern still is the access. Water capacity is also a concern, but it could be a condition. She did relay to T-Wall in late August that they needed to do water modeling, and that hasn't yet been completed. She's also concerned with some of the proposed foundations. They're very close to trees. She put most of that in her staff comments, and she also has Norm's concerns related to fire access.
And I think she did mention about the trees also.
But you asked
Wait,
what the
wait.
MDP is a concern?
But
I
again,
think that's the one thing, because if we can get past the MDP,
For
then
me-
at least density's off the table.
For me, those concerns are not concerns that should affect concept approval of an MDP amendment or the GIP amendment. And I'm sympathetic with this idea that says it's not whether ordinances pertain and we're just deferring to staff. It's the idea that we have two differences of opinion on a very technical nature that we haven't had a chance to see all of the documentation. Some of us do this for a living. We could review it and make an independent determination, but we're hesitant to go against staff on an overly technical issue. But I support the idea of a conditional concept approval so that we can schedule the public hearing, so that we don't delay, recognizing that if that issue is not resolved at a technical level, it doesn't matter. So, I mean...
So you're saying subject to staff and developer coming to some agreement?
Right.
Conditional?
I mean, so it's...
So we are approving it if that can...
No, I'm saying we're approving the concept of these units so that we can order that a public hearing for a GIP amendment can be held. And I'm confident that because of the 30-day notice requirement and Class 1 notice, that we can resolve this issue before the GIP amendment comes up, before the public hearing comes up.
So, Cindy,
I certainly favor what you're saying too, and I think it helps move the process along, gives us some comfort, and I think when you've got 2,900 and some lots, why you couldn't make some change at the very end of it all,
right?
And say, well, okay, you're just not going to develop that parcel of land. This holding this up.
Right. On the other hand, if we have a factual dispute between a developer and staff, you understand that we tend to go with staff because it's an area outside of our expertise. Now I don't need to be at that meeting. If we can work the numbers, let's work the numbers. I would make a motion to recommend what I'm calling conditional concept approval of the GIP and SIP modification, subject to resolution of all of the issues enumerated and staff concerns about the aggregate density in the back 9 neighborhood.
And
I would second that.
Other issues that we talked about.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Cindy.
conditional on all of the water and other issues, which are part of the SIP anyway.
Okay. Anybody else has more comments or questions now? Yes, David.
I hate to be mundane
Yes.
after that such lofty talks. Parcel 3. I thought last time we talked about spinning it so that it holds the street.
Which one? Oh.
Which one?
Oh.
3.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Just spin it so it hugs the street.
So that the
so this way. Yeah, you mean like that?
rotate it clockwise.
Got it. Like
So
this, so it goes like that?
So that the street edge is more or less continuous,
Parallel.
rather than that jog in the street face of the buildings. Here, I'm drawing.
Oh, yeah. The issue is the tree easement area.
Well, we can change the building to shape, I mean, whatever. But you mean basically put the front facade up here, lined up? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
Do
Okay.
that.
Yeah, okay. We'll have to change
Yeah.
the corner.
So, yeah, I mean,
That's fine.
it might need a slight adjustment.
Right, that's no
But at
big
least
deal.
that street edge would then give
Right,
and take.
that
So
makes
that's
sense.
part of the motion. So
Yeah,
in any
that
case.
makes sense.
The other part of that mundaneness is parking. I think we agreed that the 3 parking spaces on the housing side of the street would be there if necessary.
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
Not there as part of the construction unless it was necessary.
Right, that we would retain the right to force the developer to put it in if necessary.
If necessary.
But it doesn't
I think we'd
need
like
to be
to,
needed right now.
I think we'd like to put it in just to have it.
Well, I got to do the count.
Except
for the
that it's
park.
housing on this side of
Yeah.
the street, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
Mark.
David, I think we need 2 of these out of the 3 to count for what this GDP or SIP. But what if we did this all in grass paver, we have concrete pavers, the grass grows up, so it's all grass, but it will support a car if you need it? And
Sure,
would
if
that
you
be
want
okay?
to. I mean, I think you're overparked anyway, but
Yeah, I agree with you, but we required, according to SIP.
This is
to
shuttle
have-
parking for Middleton Center, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's walkable,
that-
come on, it's walkable.
Oh, no, we're not real.
That's a good one, yeah. That's a good one.
I have to do one joke at Terrence's
See, now that-
expense every night.
I respect that humor.
all right.
Good job, Kurt.
Oh, Mark?
Okay, yes, Mark.
So a couple things. First of all, one thing I've gotten out of this over the last few months that we've been discussing this is hopefully in the future, as we have other phases of Bishop's Bay, we are much more careful in terms of how we allow an area like this to develop in the future. I think we got ourselves into a box by allowing a private street
Yes.
with large lot frontage here to be sold off
Yes.
to somebody,
Yes.
which really affected our ability to have a street grid. And that has been the biggest issue for me,
Yep.
that's stuck in my craw,
Yep.
is that we do not have this ability to connect to Galloway Court.
Yep.
And that, we cannot do that again. We cannot get ourselves in that situation, and I know you had a buyer who wanted to buy those lots.
Well, I wasn't running the thing for that period of 12
I
months.
understand.
But I'm 100% in agreement with you.
But we cannot, so
Absolutely
we've
right.
learned that lesson for next time.
Yep.
No private streets with large lots.
Well, not doing things piecemeal in an area like
Right.
that. And a couple things, Terrence, that you said, since we're clearing some air here. You talked about developer compromises. I would just add that we have done some compromises,
Yes.
too. You've asked for SIP modifications for impervious surface area.
Yes.
We are still, and just so you know, I'm still getting requests from individual builders of lots in Back 9 wanting to exceed the 35% impervious surface area. And frankly, I'm getting really frustrated with
Yeah.
it. Because you are selling to people who want to put more house than they can on the lot.
Right.
And I would ask for you and your staff to do a better job calling that out when they're buying, because they come to us, and then we are the bad guys, have to be the bad guys, saying,
Right.
well, the rules, the zoning regulations don't allow it. We have an acre called me today again to
Yep.
add a patio after they hit 35%.
Right.
So I'm tired of being in that position, so we have been flexible too.
Yep.
And the last point was, you made a comment about red tail acres, and that we today were willy-nilly approving. We've worked with that property for several years, before you came in with this property. We've had a lot of different development proposals. Alder Sullivan will attest to this. We have gotten a lot of proposals in the past for multifamily. We've been lowering the density, worked with different developers. So to say that we did that, as you said earlier in the meeting, and kind of on a whim approved it, that's not at all facts.
And I appreciate you doing a lot of work on that impervious area issue. And we need to come in with the modification of the MDP to increase the impervious area for those particular lots. We built in additional stormwater capacity above and beyond what we were required to do, just in case. And now this is the case where we'll be able to show we have that extra capacity and then change that issue so you don't have to do all these ad hoc
My concern
approvals.
is, I'm just airing it all out since I get to sit up here today. My concern
Well,
is
you're
you
right.
have a tendency to make comments about other developments when they are not your developments. And, I just would ask you to be a little more careful, a little more thought into the fact that maybe we do a lot of work with those developers behind the scenes that you're not familiar with. I just would ask for your consideration in the future.
Sure. I should say that Chris Cook, by the way, has built homes for me. He's a very good quality developer, and I'm not opposed to his development. I just want to make sure the sewer and water capacity doesn't disappear for the housing that we, are paid for. He will definitely build a good quality home at a price point, frankly, that the city needs.
Well, that's only starting at step 1. I mean, we
Right.
haven't, that's not going anywhere. There are a lot of issues to address
Yes.
there. Abby?
Before any action's taken, can I reread the motion? Moved by Paulson, seconded by Olson? No. Dorn? Sorry. Didn't catch the second. To recommend conditional concept approval, subject to resolution of all of the issues, including density and water capacity in the Back 9 neighborhood.
And the access. and
Density, water capacity, and access.
Access.
and any other, was there any other?
And lot 3 to hug the street.
Thank you.
And
Can I just add, for the water capacity, can we hold off modeling until we're ready for the SIP approval? Because again, Strand, I'm not sure if you guys have ever gotten a Strand bill, but we pay a lot of them on behalf of the city, and I'd prefer not to until we are ready to build.
who makes that determination? Is that Sean that makes that determination?
I don't know. Who?
Engineer?
Abby, who makes?
That's
that-
beyond our.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when you guys are making that a condition for conditional approval, that's just a condition of the SIP is that we prove the.
Well, as I said,
Sufficient
we'll
capacity.
get together when Eileen is
Yeah.
well, and we're
Yep.
going to sort it out. So that would be whatever else is there.
Yeah, water capacity is an SIP condition, not a
Yeah.
GIP condition,
Yep.
right?
Good.
Right.
Yes.
Well,
Well-
any more questions? And any more input to Terence? Or Terence, if you want to provide any more input here? So you, Mark, is there anything more which has been bothering you so far? Okay, well, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed, Nick?
Okay, so, well, we are done here, so I need a motion to
Did that- I
adjourn.
mean, you-
That was-
did that carry?
Was that-
Oh, yeah, it carried, yes.
5-2,
Huh?
5-2?
Yes.
As chair, it would be helpful if you
Yes,
indicate.
yes, yes.
4-2. Does Mayor vote?
Yep.
4-2 with Zellers and Hubbard opposed.
Okay. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Thank you, Terence, thank you,
Thank you very
Taylor,
much.
thank you, everybody, and thank you, Mark.